Hey, welcome back to the Tribal Knowledge podcast, where we explore how people, platforms, and the stories connect to create belonging in the digital age. Today, I'm joined by someone who has been helping brands and creators do just that, Randy Ksar. Randy's been at the forefront of storytelling and influencer strategy and also community building for nearly 2 decades. Our theme today is Future and Trends, how the next era of communities will be shaped not just by technology, but by trust, creators, and storytelling that actually moves people. First, welcome, Randy. It's great to see you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, good to see you. It's been a while, but I'm glad to reconnect and talk about the future and trends.
I worked with Randy when I was at Lithium, which later became Koros, and he was the senior community manager at Motorola, and he was just doing some amazing things at Motorola. I guess 20 years ago, right? Not quite 20. But
Yeah, I was there from 2008 to 2012, and then we got bought out by Google, and then so it was a good time. It was the start of the Android ecosystem, and I was happy to be a proud supporter of Lithium. That kind of brought us a lot of community engagement across our channels.
yeah, they had an amazing platform. I think they were the first to introduce gamification based on the founders like Lyle. I can't remember the other, Kirk, I think. They were like professional video game players, like in the, I think it was
That's
the
right.
90s.
Yeah, that's what they started with.
In the 90s, I think. So they became like very famous and rich. I guess Lyle just happened to own the lithium.com domain, and they just said, let's just go with Lithium. That was the story. So I thought
Okay.
that was cool. So we're speaking about stories and in relation to community, what makes a community story different from a brand story?
That's a great question. I mean, a community is everything to someone that is leveraging the products. It is everything to someone that is a lifelong customer. It is the differentiator amongst brands. So you can have a brand without a community, but you can't have a community without a brand. So those are the first initial thoughts in my head around that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome answer. I think that's a great insight. And let's talk about I know a lot of communities, upper communities, some of them don't even have forums on the website. They just use, Reddit and Discord. And I kind of think that's a mistake. I think they could be kind of using those channels, certainly, but they should pull it into their own website, to a platform where at least they can build a tribal knowledge base out of that information. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good question and a good point. I think the key to having a successful community relates back to your business goals. So, what are those business goals? If those business goals are to increase API usage of your products, that can only happen on your website. You need to get an API key. You need to get all the technical documentation, and so that owning that UI and that UX can only happen on your website and on your brand. Now, if you want to amplify it and go where the developers hang out in a non-biased, not necessarily non-branded, but non-biased and in their own terms, I think so. You still need to have both, in my mind. But if you are measuring the performance of your community and more of your brand, and the DG team is looking for leads, that really only happens on your website.
And I think in that regard, you need to have a platform that can integrate with those kind of off-site places where the developers are, where could be different members of the community are lurking, but you need to connect them. And I think that's why you never want to build your own platform and hook those in manually. You want to buy something, right? A SaaS thing that's agile. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I would say it depends. I think depending on the level of the stage of your community, the stage of your company, it's definitely a huge expense. So I think to start off with, creating a community off-site is probably where a lot of people do it, and they start off with that, so that they can start seeding the conversations and the topics and seeing what resonates, and helping them build their strategy. And once they have an initial kind of small subset of a community, and they start seeing some engagement, then they'll start getting more budget to have a platform, to have a community manager. And I think that's that takes time. It's not an overnight success. You're not going to ask the CEO for $1 million. Not that all platforms cost $1 million, but say, I don't know, 30 or 40K to start off with, until there's actual need for it. Because you don't want crickets in your community. It takes content, it takes a community manager, it takes initial subset of influencers and developers,
we hit a glitch.
Whatever, community members.
Awesome. And what role do you think gamification has in kind of attracting those power users, those influencers, if you would?
So I say again, which role does community?
What do you think about gamification?
Oh, okay.
A lot of companies are using a platform, and they're not really taking advantage of all the features under the hood of the platform. And it could be a free platform like Discourse, right? So that's free to use. What do you say about, is it start small, or do you just start big with the gamification features?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it all depends on what your outcomes are. What are you trying? What are the results that you're trying to achieve? In my experience, for any community, there's a small subset that actually pays the bills, and then there's the rest of them that are just there, just kind of tinkering with your toys. That's happened in numerous occasions from a developer's communities, where maybe you have 5 to 10% are ones that actually pay your bills and that are featured across your ecosystem, and then the rest of them are there just kind of helping you test. It's kind of their side job, or side hustle. So gamification can only help if it really caters towards the right type of user, the right type of community member. There's some people that gravitate towards that, and there's others that don't see it as, people don't have a lot of time these days. They want to get in and out. And so I think gamification can only happen when it really matters to the right people.
Yeah, I think it's important. I learned this at Lithium, to have that kind of VIP area. Joe Cawthorne called it the Star Lounge, I think, but that's a private area of the community where those elite members can connect directly to you and to other community managers and developers, and I think that kind of gives them gives them, obviously makes them feel good, gives them clout, and then when they do write something, maybe you might suggest that they write a topic on a LinkedIn story or Medium Journal or a Substack, and then you kind of amplify their posts via your brand's social media, and that really that way you're kind of contributing to their success, building their brand, and they appreciate it, come back and help you build your brand. So it's really a win-win. And on that note, how do you think brands and influencers co-create trust without losing control of the narrative? Say maybe an influencer was kind of going on something that was against the brand, or I wouldn't be too strict with them, but what would you recommend?
Well, I mean, working with influencers, you have to do your background check. You have to research on them in terms of who they are, what they believe in. You need to have that conversation with them in terms of what are the topics that you think that they're an expert on, and vice versa. What do they want to go with? Every influencer has an agenda, has a, they're running a business. They want to get paid, and they are experts on certain things. And so I think it's just a matter of having that early conversation with them, making sure that it's a long-term relationship. It's not a short-term relationship with them. And then and then also having an understanding of what your community wants from a content perspective can be helpful in identifying those influencers. and maybe they already have clout with your community, off, on Discord or on Reddit or wherever. So I think that's, where you can do your research and see if there's already trust with the community with these type of influencers, and if there isn't, it's an opportunity for both the corporate brand and the influencer brand to kind of build that trust. So it's definitely a needed thing. Trust is important in the community especially as you start off, because without that, you're not going to get, reach the goals that you're trying to achieve.
And you brought up a great point at the very beginning of that conversation point, that you need to kind of do kind of an audit of their social media, going back as far as you can go back, to make sure they are not some kind of skeleton in the closet that's going to come out and hurt your brand and get you in trouble with your boss.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case, but I also think, it's a reality. It's my background is also in PR and communications, and so crisis comms always is at the back of my head. You're not going to find the perfect, angel. Everyone has freedom of speech, and they're allowed to say whatever they want. But I think it's just a matter of setting expectations with people that you hire. It can go for employees as well as influencers. So it's just a matter of setting expectations early on, and having an open conversation about certain topics that you want to cover or don't want to cover.
And then if it's on your site, you have terms of use that you can point to if they violate something. Like you said, they're free speech when they're on another platform. You can only guide them. You can't really dictate. And the fact not doing so, I guess, does build that trust and that transparency. So speaking of influencers, what's the biggest myth about influencer marketing today? I know a lot of companies, more consumer oriented, really like focus on leveraging their influencers. What's the biggest myth about them?
That's a good question. The biggest myth about influencers, I mean, it's always been, it hasn't really changed, is that once you hire influencers, that you're going to go viral. You're going to get this big win. And I think that can happen in very rare occasions. My point in hiring an influencer is, one, they're already trusted in the community that you're trying to get into. So that's especially true with like startups. That's why influencers or creators, as I sometimes call them now, are doing that. And then the other myth, I think there's two of them. The other myth is that, and this goes along the lines of kind of process within a company of how you work with influencers. Sometimes people expect that one person can handle an influencer program, and it really requires a lot of effort across the organization. And so when you think about starting an influencer program and hiring influencers or creators, it, it requires a lot of effort to identify the right people, to research them, to work with them, to pay them. It's really a pretty big effort. And sometimes that resides on just one person. And that's, I think, where a lot of times those programs fail, because it requires a lot more effort to get it going,
Yeah, you
and to keep it up.
kind of cross-functional, and so would that include marketing, product teams?
Yeah, I mean, when in my last job, when I was working with influencers, it hit a lot of different groups. So we worked with them on analyst briefings. We brought in influencers for speaking engagements. We worked with product marketing to create content. We worked with our content team to create social content. We worked with our CMO for different speaking engagements, not just online, but also at particular events. So it really was an opportunity to bring this person in and to leverage them for multiple opportunities. And I think that's, when you see that person that has that leverage and has that clout amongst the community that you're trying to reach, the target audience that you're trying to reach, it's a no brainer that you have to communicate clearly to your internal groups that this is an opportunity available, that this person is working with us, they're trusted, and let's work together with them to create content and other opportunities to engage with our target audience.
And you mentioned paying the professional influencers who have large tribes, but you also, as you know, you also have to, as a community leader, you also have to kind of cultivate influencers that are in the community, and that involves, what does that involve, in your opinion?
Yeah, so in my last job, I not only managed our influencers but also our customers, and so looking for the customers that have the right story that we want to tell, that can highlight the right product features that we want to tell. Usually those people, the customers, are not looking for publicity or notoriety, and sometimes there are people behind the scene that don't want to be on camera or don't want to be in a case study. So you need to one is kind of cultivate that relationship, and gain their trust, and make sure something's in it for them as well. And so that took a while to cultivate those relationships and to find the right people, and working with my customer success team and making sure that the product was up and running and that they were using it correctly, but also just like they had a good experience. And once we found those people, it was easy to gain their trust and to coach them on the case study opportunities, the analyst briefings that we wanted them to be with, the videos that we wanted to create. It took effort, but it definitely was helpful in the end.
Awesome. And I know connecting with them, you need some kind of a platform, whether it's in the site. What platform or platforms that are interconnected today that you think is the next community frontier, even if it's not invented yet, but what do you see happening in 5 or 10 years?
Wow,
that's
a good question. I mean, from my perspective, a community platform should be, it's table stakes. It should be part of your website. You should have the ability to create a profile. You should have the ability to have discussions with other people that are part of the community, as well as people internally, whether it's evangelists or customer support. In terms of actual platforms, there's new ones coming up every like 6 to 8 months. So I don't really have a list of ones that would be appropriate. It kind of depends on the stage of the company and what they're willing to invest in.
You maybe starting out with a free open source one like Discourse, and later moving,
yeah,
higher logic or something like that. That's not abhorrently expensive, but and then depending on like you said, the size of the community, you can expand it, right? Scale it to that. And
yep, for sure.
Speaking of scaling, I know AI is already there, right? With AI, kind of augmented community manager. What does that relationship with the augmented uh, community managers and also moderators that working with real people? What does that AI presence look like, or what it should look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI agents are helpful in being that first response for some of the simple things that would need to happen within the community in terms of answering questions, in terms of forgetting your password, all those like simple tasks that really don't need a human. And so I think that is definitely going to be you're already seeing that with a lot of different communities already there. And as we think about AI, we don't only think of it in customer support terms and community terms, but we also think of it of onboarding as well within the community, in terms of content creation. One of the key things that I work on is, I was working with a company called Upwork, and Upwork is a freelancer community, as well as agencies. And so you go there and you type in your brief of the type of person that you want to work with or that you need for your company. So say you need someone to build a video and you need to write a brief. The struggle that a lot of people have is writing that brief. And so they took it upon themselves to bring in AI, and then they were leveraging OpenAI's APIs. But they leveraged OpenAI's tools to help people create that brief. So write in plain English what they're looking for, and then they have some great prompts as well as some great templates that they leveraged to create those briefs, so that that the person that was trying to hire could get the right person. Because without a good brief, you're not going to hire the right people, and you're going to get a lot of junk freelancers trying to apply.
That's excellent
And
point.
so that is one way that AI is being leveraged from a kind of onboarding perspective, and getting because the key thing in community is finding value in it in a very short amount of time. It goes along with any company, whether when you're building products and you're launching products. If they can find value in your product within a short amount of time, you can charge them, right? Especially for those enterprise products. And so that is super key in the community. If they can find value in it and in return, because they saw that value, then it's golden.
That's great advice. Speaking of the augmented community manager, how do you think brands should preserve the voice and values as automation takes hold? Should they make it transparent that this is a bot and this is a human, and representing our brand? What's your thoughts on, or are they just kind of meshed together?
No, I mean, I think the key thing is that one is transparency. AI only works with humans. There was a ServiceNow ad in the Wall Street Journal recently where they said, we don't need any AI agents. I mean, they make AI agents, but the key thing was that they were trying to do in that ad is show that AI agents only work with humans. You need to create the right, all that data that you're empowering that AI agent only works with the right data and with the right humans that are crafting that data and that are researching that data. And so when we think about automation within a community, we also think about at what point does the human intervene once that AI agent is in it. And I think it's key in building relationships. Building a relationship with the AI bot is, sure, you trust it, you'll go back again and use it again. But I think from a we talked about earlier about maybe there's 5 to 10% of community members that are really the ones that pay your bills. That also needs to happen within the community, is those 5 to 10% within a community are the ones that are going to pay your bills. And they need a human to interact with. They need to know that there's someone on the other end at headquarters or wherever in the business that they can talk to when it comes time to relying and trusting on this company to help their business.
Awesome advice. Now let's switch gears to a kind of a lightning round. I know we're closing in
Love it.
time. So, platform to bet on in 2026.
Well, I'm a big LinkedIn fan. I think LinkedIn, in the way that it is now, has opportunities to really amplify your personal brand and what you're trying to achieve as a company. So I think that's something that people should do even when they're not looking for a job. It's something that they should stay on. And I think LinkedIn is going to come out with some great products that can help, not only from the ad perspective to reach the target audience, but also from a personal branding perspective. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Next, what's the most overhyped buzzword right now in community?
Oh, engagement. I think that's, everyone wants engagement. I think it's yeah. I'll just give it at that.
It's a no-brainer, right? I mean, that's the goal of everything. So saying it's kind of redundant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And last one. If storytelling is the fuel, what is the engine?
Oh man, you're making me think here. If storytelling is the fuel, what is the engine? The engine is your self-awareness. If you aren't self-aware of what you believe in and what your story is, then you'll have no story. And so I think the engine is you being self-aware, you being able to take the data from your own career or your own company that you're working on and using that to tell stories. So it's definitely self-awareness.
Awesome. So Randy, thanks very much for joining us here at Tribal
Of
Knowledge.
course.
If listeners want to connect with you, where for hire you for a project or something, where can they
Sure.
find?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can easily just look up Randy, Randy, and Ksar, Ksar. And I help brands with their executives with their personal brand. So if you're looking for doing an upcoming product launch or company announcement, and you're looking to amplify and optimize your personal brand and really figure out a way to tell that story across different social platforms, and hopefully garner some attention on the media side and on the side, I can help you on that. So just look me up on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at randykasar@gmail.com.
And finally, to put a pin on it, what's the one thing you hope that listeners start doing differently after hearing this episode?
Well, I think the one thing is being able to have a strategy. I think that's the key thing. Is sometimes we just jump right on in, and we don't really have a long-term strategy. So make sure that from the lessons that you've learned in this podcast, hopefully you've learned that you take some time to write down your strategy, and that should help you get to where you're going from a business perspective.
Great. Hey, Randy, thank you so much. I appreciate the time you took to spend with me this day today. Great to see you as always.
Yeah, you too. All right. Have a great day.
Okay, see you later. Bye.